Hi, I am Stefano, also known as the Moon Guy, and today I would like to talk a bit about psychological astrology, which is the result of the cross fertilization between astrology and depth psychology. And it draws its philosophy mainly from the psychoanalyst called Carl Jung, and its theory indicates that we can analyze the horoscope via what he calls the archetypes, which would be primitive mental images that we inherit from our ancestors. And they get repeated over time and they get passed on and on and on through generations, and that we can all access via what we call the collective unconscious. So, psychological astrology believes that we can use the birth chart to see how those archetypes and their meanings were modified and personalized to each single one of us. So, each individual will perceive and experience reality differently. And by exploring this, astrology promotes a process of self awareness and what Carl Jung calls psychic integration. There is an analogy that I like to use. Imagine that you have those mini yous coexisting inside yourself. And some of them, they will tend to be louder, they take more space, they feel more familiar, and others perhaps will be a bit more shy, a bit different. Maybe they're hiding under the carpet. So, psychic integration would be getting to know and befriending each one of those archetypes, those mini yous that are inside you, so that we can hopefully develop a deeper relationship with ourselves. This process we also call individuation, which is the creation of the self. Carl Jung has a very nice definition of the self. He says that it is like an internal structure that gives us the feeling of standing on solid ground, which I find quite inspiring. So, psychological astrology believes that we can enter it into dialogue with each one of those mini yous, each one of those planetary symbols that represents different parts of ourselves. And while we are in this process exploring those different archetypes, those different parts of us, we will sometimes face and confront some that are a bit trickier. They feel less familiar, and those we call shadows. And amongst the shadows, we have those which are even more hidden for different reasons, and those were called complexes. A complex would be a semi autonomous part of our psyche that tends to occasionally take over, and it acts almost independently from the objective reality of a situation. So those will be moments where perhaps we feel out of control or that we don't understand, strong emotional reactions that we don't know where it's coming from. And through astrology and psychoanalysis, we can start identifying those complexes. And by doing so, we allow and create some space in between. We create a healthy detachment, which is the first step into transforming them and dealing with them in healthier ways. Another thing that I find quite distinctive from psychological astrology, comparing with the other schools and styles, is how the actual consultation, how the meeting 101 astrologer and client looks like, which is much more like a dialogue than using the chart as a divination tool. So, psychological astrology is probably not going to sit in front of you with your chart and read it and tell you all about you and your life. The astrologer has the knowledge of the symbols and he trains how to interpret them. But it is, of course, the client who has the knowledge of their own lives, and together they can start figuring out how those symbols, how those archetypes, they tend to manifest in the person's life, and what they could possibly mean, and what kind of life lessons the person is trying to learn and going through. Well, this was a bit more of a dense video. If you're interested in astrology and in what I do, please visit my website, thecharty.com, and subscribe also to my channel, The Moon Guy. Ciao, ciao!